Hi folks, welcome back. In the previous video, we talked about different options for hosting the Helm chart repositories, and then we did touch base certain aspects of like what are the different options like the Google Cloud Storage option, and then you can create your own web server using in HTTPD Apache basically and then you can host your charts there as well. And then we talked about GitHub repo basically with the help of GitHub pages, and then we discussed in detail like how to enable this GitHub pages option in the GitHub repo, and then we created a chart, and then we moved it to GitHub pages, and then we exposed it, and then we basically accessed it with the help of an URL, GitHub pages URL, and then we added that into a local repository, we deployed it. I mean, basically the end-to-end lifecycle management with the help of the GitHub pages approach we have discussed in detail, and we also touch based upon one of the fantastic features which I personally like, which is called the Chartmuseum option. So in this particular video, we will be discussing this Chartmuseum option in detail. So let's come down here and you will see an option called Chartmuseum. So basically, what is this Chartmuseum? Chartmuseum is just an open source Helm chart repository which you can have host within your cloud wherever you're working. For example, if you're working in AWS, you can host it within your AWS, or if it is an Azure or GCP or any other public clouds like Alibaba, OpenStack, whatever the Oracle cloud. In each of these, you can host within your environment, and you can have your own repository with the help of this Chartmuseum. So if you go and click this URL, you will be redirected to the official Chartmuseum documentation, where you can see the Chartmuseum aspects in detail. And if you click here, you will go to the official GitHub pages, the documentation for that Chartmuseum, how you can configure different sort of storage methods and everything. You can see in detail. Also, if you go and search in Google to install this Chartmuseum, again using the Helm chart itself. So it's like, don't get confused, installing the Chartmuseum with the help of Helm chart itself. So since we are discussing in the Helm chart, I thought it would be very good, even if this Helm chart also, let us try to install using the Helm chart method. I mean, the Chartmuseum itself, with the help of this Helm chart itself. So if you come down, you will be redirected to this official documentation. So this is an official repository of the Chartmuseum. If you go here, you will see the different Helm chart methods. This is for storage, Helm chart, example for with Chartmuseum, and recently Chartmuseum has introduced even the UI as well. If you want to install the UI for your Chartmuseum, you can always go back and see this repo, where how you can install and how you can enable the UI as well, which I'm not going to discuss because that is not our motto. All you can do is, because it's all it does is just displays what are all the different I think the UI something looks like this. If you go here, this image, if you see, it looks something like this. But anyway, we are least bothered about UI. All we need is how we can install the Chartmuseum, because everything you are doing in the command line method itself, because when you're dealing with the production and large number of industry standard clusters and everything, you will not be dealing with the UI steps. It's all about the complete automations and then the command line methods. So I personally recommend you to get stick to the UI, the command line method itself rather than UI. So if you see here, this is the repository. So what we will do is, I have my Kubernetes cluster ready. So if you see here, currently I don't have any repo added here. So what I'll do is, let me try to go and install this repository. I mean, add this repository to my local basically. So now the Chartmuseum has been added to my local. Now if I do Helm search repo and then the repo name, this will give me the list of sorry, my bad, so command is wrong. Yeah, so now if you see here, this is the chat which is available here. So now if I go to official documentation, and if I go here, You know, in my previous video, I already explained you about, how to deal with the public repos. Basically, to see the value file, how you can generate the value file if it is already there. Since in this chat itself, we can find this value.yaml. The another method of generating the value file is, Helm show values for this particular, like, Helm show values and then the chat name. It will again displace the same value file, whatever we are seeing in the UI. If you can see here, this the same value file. I'm just going inside the chat. I'm there itself. I'm viewing all these things, so you can see how you can customize this chat repository. So by default, it comes with one replica, and the deployment method will be rolling update rather than recreate. And then here is an option for this is very the beautiful part of this Helm chart. So if you see here, it provided an integration with all the cloud storage techniques. For example, if you want to integrate it with your AWS or even with Alibaba, if you see here, these three are the options which you need to configure. And if you want to configure it with your Azure the AWS, you can see here, you need to create an S3 bucket, the S3 bucket URL you need to give, and all those things. So if you come down in this documentation itself in the readme.md, you'll find an example for each and everything. So if you just come down, so let's take an example of using the S3. You just need to create this IAM policy first, and then you will see here, so you need to give the permission. You need to create a special user with help of an access key. So you need basically the AWS user with whenever you create an application user, or specifically the user robotic user, so that it will come up with your basically you will download your access key and secret key, right? So that one. So you have two options. One is in the same value.yaml, you can configure the option specific to Amazon, and when installing, you can supply hyphen hyphen values and then this value.yaml or hyphen f value.yaml, or altogether you can create a new file called custom.yaml and put the instructions specific to AWS itself, like what is your storage S3 bucket name, and then which region it is, access key and secret key with whatever the user you created, and then put it inside this, and during the installation hyphen f option you supply this. So it's up to individuals. By this time, I'm damn sure all of you folks will be very much aware about how to use the value option, and how to customize it and all, because I've already explained it in almost every video. Now I assume that you folks are already familiar with this. So that's about AWS option. Similarly, if you want to do it with Google Storage, same thing. You can create a custom YAML file, or the same YAML file itself you can configure it. Similarly, if you for in Microsoft Azure, all you can do is you create a storage account. Within that, you create a container name. Then the storage account comes up its own access key and secret key. So all you're doing is storage account name, container name, and then that particular access key and secret key and supply this. So that's what that's the beauty. You can configure with all three the storages so whether your charts will go and sit in that particular storage bucket, basically inside the container. That's it's totally up to individuals, whichever the cloud they are working they can do. So I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do another simple method. So if you go back to value.yaml, again, the reason why I explained is in some places, whichever the cloud you're working, you can always go back and configure this. This is a very simple, straightforward approach. This is a tested approach, 100% it will work. So in my, and I mean, again, if you don't want to do this, one generic option which you can handle in any of the cloud is enabling the persistent volume and persistent volume client, so that if you come down here, you will see persistent volume option. There you go. By default, persistence is disabled. It's like set to false. So all you need to do is enable it true, and then set up how much storage you want to set up. Whether it's by default it's 8 GB, you can even reduce it or increase it. It's up to you. So that's the another beauty of this. And if you want to enable it with the ingress, that is also we can do. Or let's assume that you have installed Istio in your environment, or For example, since I'm dealing with the Google cluster, so I mean the Google Kubernetes cluster GKE. So let's assume if you have installed Google Cloud Managed Service Mesh, so there either you can use the Istio. I mean by default it comes with a traffic director implementation. Obviously you will be given with the Istio. So let's assume you have installed Istio gateway, or let's assume you have just installed a bare Kubernetes clusters and then open source Istio, and then you created your own Istio gateways. Both are same. Or let's assume you're not using the Istio gateways, you're directly using the Kubernetes gateway classes, and as per the your need, you have created a storage class which is comes with Google storage as well. So like different kind of in Google storage gateway class, sorry, not storage classes, the gateway classes are available. Based on your need, it will create a corresponding load balancer as well. So there as well, provide if you install certificate management like with the help of Google certificate, let's assume you have integrated with your domain and everything, then you can always go back and create a HTTP route for that and make it HTTPS. So currently it is just a HTTP. If you want to do it even HTTPS, that is also available. Or if you're using a classic ingress, that option is also available here. You can just enable it as true and you can go ahead and use it. I mean, like it's fun, I mean, whichever the option you want, always, you can go back. If you're not sure how to create, the gateway classes and use the gateways and all those things, I have a detailed videos done for that in my Anthos series, basically GK Enterprise series. You can always go back and check and get in-depth knowledge about that. So, let's come back. So what I'll do is now, since the Helm chart is already added in my local, and I will go ahead and install the Chartmuseum. I just prepared a small, notes for that. So just to save the time, I'll just refer this and I'll go ahead with the installation. So if you see here, what I'm doing is I am okay. Let's try to understand one small concept here. If you go to readme.md, here's the interesting thing. By default, chart will not have persistent storage. That is what we discussed. And also the API service will be disabled because this is for security reasons. Now we need to enable this API service, then only we'll be able to access it and add it to our local stuff and deal with this Helm charts. So that is the reason why what we are doing is this flag by default it is false. We are setting it to true, and also the another thing is we are setting up the persistent volume and we are setting up to 4 GB, 5 GB. So that is what I am doing here. Environment.open.disable API, whatever it is, I'm setting it to false so that I don't want this to be disabled. I want this to be enabled. That's why disable API is set to false. That means it is enabled. It's like false negation. And I'm setting my persistent enabled is true and I'm setting the persistent size as 5 GB. So let's install and I'm releasing it with the name called My Chart Museum. Whatever the name you want, you can give. But actual chart which we are installing it in is this, which we already figured out when I did Helm search. I found that this is the chart name. So let's install this. This would take a couple of seconds. All right, it's done. What we will do, since it is installed in the default namespace, unless I specified any particular namespace, by default it will always come and sit in default namespace. It's still creating the container. It's just running and still it is not in ready state. It must be checking the readiness and liveness probe. There you go. So now what we will do is we will do one small hack. Of course, this you would have done in value.yaml itself. So if you go here in value.yaml, the default service type is cluster IP. You should have changed it to node port. Since I did not do there, now what I'll do is I'll do here itself. So it has created a service. I mean, any method like you can do directly in that value.yaml. I forgot to do that. That's why I'm doing here. It's another easy way I'll show you. I mean, like you can always go back, edit the service. change it to node port. So what I'll do, I don't need all these things. This is sufficient. Type what I will do. I guess it's node port. I think, or I don't want node port service to be frank. Sorry. Let's try to, since it is a public cluster, I'll try to create the load balancer service. I think the spelling is wrong. There must be something. I think I might have given a spelling wrong. So better I will do. Oh yeah, spelling is wrong. Let me correct it and copy paste from here. There you go. So we all I have done is changed this cluster IP service, which was like earlier cluster IP. I changed it to load balancer IP. Now you should expect a external IP created for this, which is basically a load balancer IP. It's still creating. Let's give a couple of seconds more. So once you are done, you should be able to access the chat, because if you see here, when a successful installation of the chat, it will be listening in 8080 port. So if we give HTTP, I don't want to do it via localhost method, so that as I said, when you have your gateways, and all those stuffs installed, you can expose easily this HTTP to HTTPS. So if you use this curl now and change the load balancer IP, there you go. You see the Chartmuseum installed successfully. That's good. So now that we saw, this is successfully working. So let's go back and create one simple chat. Anyway, I have made the commands ready so that I don't want to waste the time, and because this is something which we already know. I just created a simple chat called my chat. Now what I'll do is, I'll do the packaging of this chat. So once you successfully package this Helm chat, it created this. Now here's the thing. So if you go back to the official repository of this Chartmuseum and uploading a chat, so you will come across with this uploading a chat package. So what you're doing, you're packaging it. So once the package is successfully created, you will use this command, basically curl hyphen data binary and then your chat, and then basically your repo, and then APIs chats. So again, if you're used to planning to use this provenance file yesterday, as I was showing, with the help of an integrity, and to show that this is sufficiently verified, it's a proper Helm chart and all those things, integrity feature, if you want to enable it with the help of public and private key pairs and GPG keys and all those things, you can always go back and do it. But as I said, usually it will not be done, because in a typical organization you will have your own private repositories, and it's not going to expose beyond that. And moreover, it will be either it will be in an either artifactory itself, where you'll be putting it, which is again a JFrog repository, or anything which is private itself. So I did not come across with people are doing it, but there might be few companies or few places, the organization might be prefer to do this. So it's, but there is an option. You can always go back and read, because when you know these many things, knowing that small stuff will definitely not take much time for any individuals. So with this solid funda, anything on top of this you can always learn, because it's always it is easy to go beyond the boundaries because you already have the sufficient information. So all I'm trying to do now is running this so that it will go and upload the chat inside this. After that, we can try accessing with the help of this local host. So the same command, I have made it ready. So let me run it. Now all I need to do is change my public IP, which is this, the load balancer IP of the chat. There you go. It showed you, true. So now what I need to do is just try to do, curl for this. Yep, you can see here it is giving you the information about this chat, which is like my chat, whatever, and all the because that is the name of your chat, and all the other metadata information about this chat, everything is available here. So now that we have officially, successfully uploaded this chat and placed it inside our chat museum. So, okay, let me summarize what we have done. We have installed the chat museum, and then inside a chat, I had just created a sample chat, and then I have pushed this chat inside a chat museum. Now it is sitting in a particular repository called Chartmuseum. Again, that repository is sitting within your cluster, and with a persistent volume of size 5 GB. You can always increase this persistent volume and go beyond that. So this is present inside a chat repository now. Now what we will do is we will try to pull it from the chat museum and add it to your local repository, and then let's try to install that chat. So what we will do is this is the command helm repo add, and then this one. What I'll do is helm repo add new. I mean whatever the name if you want to give, you can give it. So now with this name I'll try to add this repository, whatever it is available here. So now if I do Helm repo list, it is giving me this repository. If I push more number of chats, it will list all the chats which are available in this. So now if I do Helm search repo and new repo, I should be able to see the chat inside this, which is this. That's simple stuff. Now what I'll do is I'll try to release this chat. So Helm install, maybe I'll give the chart name as the release name as a test, and then this. That's it, it's installed. Now if I do kubectl get parts, I'm sorry, there you go, test my chart. So now if you do Helm list, you should see the chart museum installation itself, because even that we have done using Helm chart itself, and then your the other chart which is which we have successfully installed with the help of a release name called test. And then all other information you should be able to see. I mean it's like pretty cool feature, and it's a simple tool, and at the same time it's a very effective tool. And I would encourage all of you to use this with it's like it gives you all the industry standard flexibility, security and everything. With the help of providence integrity, you can always go back and use the advanced stuff, but this will definitely give you an edge, where because if you want to secure it with the help of your certificates and everything, you can always go back and do it, and you can expose it via an istio, or you can expose it with a classic ingress, with the help of the combination of virtual service and everything in istio. And if you want to go it with the gateway classes, you can create an HTTP route for this, and you can handle this, convert the HTTP traffic to HTTPS. It's like you can do so many things with this, and you can have sufficient amount of storage, and in your local itself you can keep all your chats. So that's about this chat museum. So I hope people are very clear about the aspects of Helm repo storage. And if anybody has any sort of doubts and concern about the content covered here, always you can comment on the chat box, so that it's always provides us the feedback. The feedbacks are like always required for us to understand where we are going in terms of the topic which we are covering, and in how much depth it is covered and everything. So I would encourage the individuals to always put a comment, so that I'll be able to understand how it's going. So thank you so much, folks. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.